Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today's the 5th of August 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a view of the charts, the usual stuff. We'll see how everything's getting along. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Okay, so now then, before we actually jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our GFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and also our JFD Bank here website, where specifically actually check out our research page. This is where we update on a daily basis with our daily morning analysis, and then of course we do some other technical pieces, which I believe you can find a lot of useful, I believe you can find them useful. So, but for now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is gold. Now, I looked at gold previously, and this is what I was talking about, guys. So basically, if we would see a push through one of these levels, then in a way we could consider a further move in that direction. But initially, of course, we saw a drop below the lower side here of this range that gold was trading in previously. In a way, we were targeting the upside support line, this tentative upside support line, but as you can see, gold only traveled to the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and then from there you can see this nice good spike here to the upside, where it traveled back not only inside this range, but also it actually overcame the upper side of this range. So in a way, it traveled higher, and this is, for now, it's kind of playing out nicely according to the plan, because it traveled higher and dropped back down, but kind of stayed below, stayed above the 1433 zone, and now you can see that it's picking up the pace again and testing its key area of resistance, which is the highest point of July, and that's around the 1453 zone. Now, of course, all this is looking quite bullish for gold. If we see another move higher, another push above the 1453, then ideally, of course, what we're going to target here is, let me just squeeze this one a little bit, we're going to target the 1488 zone. So this area acted as a very good area of resistance, and that's for this one I need to jump into a daily chart and just to show you what I'm talking about here. So there we go. So this 1488 zone was a nice area of resistance here back on around the 2nd of May 2013. So this is where gold is right now. I mean, we are getting closer to those levels. Of course, looking at this picture, yep, you can see this daily picture, you can see that yes, it does have a good chance to push further. We had this little kind of consolidation here area, or should I say actually a pause. We previously, as you can see, it did accelerate here to the upside, but then then it paused a little bit here, started moving sideways, and now it seems that it's good time for it to push up again. So especially if, like I said, if we're going to get a nice move above the 1453 zone, so keep your eyes on that one. Jumping into another interesting instrument, which is Ripple. So the crypto world is let's say a little bit stagnant right now, but looking, of course, Bitcoin is making a nice move, but looking at Ripple, and I talked about this one previously, basically I was saying that we need to see a clear move out of this triangle formation here, because it was getting into a squeeze here. It did pop to the upside. The only thing is that the pop was not that big, not that significant. And as you can see right now, if I'll zoom in here a little bit, you can see that the crypto is currently getting held just slightly below this barrier right here, 0.3238, something like that. So in a way, what we could do here is, just for that better confirmation, just for the peace of mind, wait for a clear break above this, and then we could potentially initially target, of course, the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. But then, to be honest, we have a much better area of resistance, which is around the 0.35 zone. So approximately around there. You can see that previously it acted as a good area of support and also resistance. So that's why for now, keep your eyes on this 0.3238 zone. If we get a nice push above this, then yep, we'll target the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and we could see this one pushing for maybe further up if the 200 EMA is just seen as a temporary obstacle on the bull path. In terms of the downside, we're still going to stick to the same level here. We need to see a drop not only below this upside support line here, but also below the 0.3060. Now this way we could then consider a further move lower. And one of our targets, of course, going to be around the 0.2940 zone, something like that. But slightly below there, we do have this 0.2825 area, which previously acted as a good area of support here back on the around the 25th of April, and also around the 16th of July. So keep your eyes on that one, guys. AUDUSD. Now we did have a bit of a sell-off here again, and it continues to drift lower, continues to trade below this downside line. Now I talked about this one previously in one of my videos, and basically for now, of course, we are more bearish, but as you can see that the pair kind of continued drifting below the lowest point of June this year. So, and it broke below it, and yep, and one of our targets here was around the 0.6739 zone. And just to show you what that level was here in the past, this is basically the lowest point of this year. So this is the low of the 2nd of January, the flash crash, the little flash crash that we had on the 2nd of January. But now the pair is it was aiming for that. Maybe it could continue still drifting to the downside, and maybe test this area. This area could be an interesting one, because in a way, of course, if it holds, we could see maybe a bit of a correction here. The only thing is that for us, probably to get comfortable with at least slightly higher levels, ideally we need to see a break above this downside line. But until then, I mean, we're not even examining the upside here on this pair. So that's why, guys, wait for a break above this downside line. Ideally also wait for a close maybe of a daily chart, daily candle above this downside line, and then aim for higher levels. But like I said, for now, it is slightly more on the bearish side. We could see a small correction here, but if it struggles to push, let's say, above this downside line, then yep, it could be downhill. It could continue being downhill for AUDUSD. USDJPY. USDJPY continues to get hammered. So basically it's just one-way traffic for now, as you can see. So after reversing on the 1st of August, the pair continued sliding, continued moving to the downside, and you can see now it's kind of if on the 1st of August it was still kind of testing the areas around the 109.20. Now you can see that the pair is around the 105.90 zone. So in a way, what we could do here is, of course, we were hoping to see maybe a small correction back to the upside, but as you can see, it continues to get hammered. It continues to drift lower. Don't get me wrong, at some point we will see that the long awaited correction, but for now it's a very tricky one, because basically, as you can see, the pair this morning already dropped towards the 105.75. so this is the level that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. If we see a drop below this, below the 105.75, well, I mean, then we need to go searching for another good potential target, good potential support area, one of which could be this the January 2nd low around 104.78. so that's only about 100 pips away from this barrier which I was talking about. So if we see a drop below this 105.75, this of course increases the chances for a further move lower, because it would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could then target the 104.78. We'll see how it's gonna get along there. But like I said, looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see that yes, we are quite oversold, overstretched to the downside, but we were saying the same thing actually here, and we were hoping for that little maybe correction back to the upside. But as you can see, any attempt to push this one back up for the bulls, it was unsuccessful. The bulls kept getting crushed. So for now, let's say, I'm not excluding a possibility of a correction here, but to be honest, we'll just try to play it safe right now. If we see a drop below the 105.75, then this is where we will aim for lower levels. In terms of the upside here, maybe for a, let's say, maybe a larger, in order to kind of consider a larger correction a little bit, what we could do here is potentially we could try to find a possible good area which, if broken, for example this one right here, the 106.48, so marks the low of the 2nd of August, or should I say the low of the 2nd of August. So in a way, if we could get a push above this, now we do have a bunch of obstacles here above, but one important to watch would be around here, and let me just get rid of some. So this one right here, the 106.74 area, as you can see, it was near the lows of the 25th of June. So this way, if we get a nice push above this 106.75 zone, then yep, we could eventually maybe consider a larger correction here back to the upside. So that's why for now, be very careful. Like I said, it is kind of at the moment one-way traffic, but we will only start considering slightly lower areas if we see a drop below this morning's low near the 105.75. So keep your eyes on that one. Jumping into another interesting pair of GBPUSD. So this one continues to trade within our little range here. I talked about this one last week. So until we see a clear move out of this one, and ideally we would like to see, well, at least I'm not mentioning already the daily candle, but at least the 4-hour candle would be good to see. If we see a nice good close outside of this little range, then we could consider a further directional move. And let's say if we see a push above the 1.2170 zone, then yep, we will aim for the 1.2250 or even a little bit higher here, maybe aiming for this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 3rd of May. But like I said, for now, until we could consider this such a move here, we need to see that nice good push above the 1.2170. So keep your eyes on this one. In terms of the downside, which is still kind of possible, a drop below the 1.2080, only then we will aim for lower areas. And of course, a break below this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could then aim for that psychological 120 level, which probably all the sellers are kind of waiting for here on the GBPUSD pair. Jumping into EURUSD this time, so you can see a slightly different picture here, and you can see that the euro is trying to make its way back up here. It's trying to make its way back above this key zone that I talked about previously in one of my videos. So of course now, given that it's pushing above the 1.1122 zone, so it's kind of increasing the pair's chances to maybe drift a little bit higher here, maybe aim for the 1.1164 zone. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, overall we're still kind of below this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 28th of June. So in a way, if this downside line holds, we could see another leg of selling. So that's why for now our scenario is going to look something like this. So where we could aim for, like I said, slightly higher levels right now, but only up until this downside resistance line. Because for us, let's say, to shift our views to the upside, at least in the short run, or we would like to see a push not only above this downside line, but also above this 1.1190 level. Maybe at the same point, it could place the rate above the 200 EMA, which the more bulls could see as a positive, and could start joining in and driving this one back towards the 1.1280 or even higher. So for now, guys, yes, I mean, there is a possibility for this one to push a little bit higher. The only thing is that there are a bunch of obstacles that that the pair would need to overcome before, say, aiming further up. So that's why initially we will target the 1.1163, 64 zone, something like that. And just slightly above that, like I said, we do have this downside line, which in a way could play out nicely, could help resist the bull pressure here, and then we'll take it from there. But let's say also do not exclude a possibility. Let's say if we don't even see a move higher here and we see a drop back below the 1.11 zone here, then, well, I mean, we could consider a possible slide back down here towards these recent lows near the 1.1025 area, or even lower. Everybody's also here, the sellers are also thinking of the 1.10 zone, the psychological 1.10 zone, but of course would need to overcome some of these support barriers before we could see a possible test of the 1.10. But again, like I said, for now it seems that it wants to push a little bit higher. Let's see if it can do that. If it can, then yep, we'll aim for this area right here that I've mentioned, around the 1.1164 and this downside resistance line. And this leads us into EURGBP. Now, this one you can see that is having a nice push here to the upside. So, of course, the high of July is around the 0.9190. You can see that the pair is trying to make its way towards that area. The big question here is, will it be able to break it? If it does, then yep, of course, this confirms a forthcoming higher high. We could aim for that along the way to 0.92 level, but if we jump into a daily chart very quickly on this one, you can see that we do have some good obstacles above here, and this is where it seems that the pair is aiming for right now. So we do have these highs, the 2017 highs, which are near the 0.9270 and the 0.93 level. So so keep your eyes on this one. So those were the August highs of 2017. So these could be possible. We could see maybe a test of those, but of course, like I said, initially we need to see a strong push above the 0.9190 before we could aim for those those targets here. And as I said, the 0.92 level, which is becoming quite attractive now, and of course the 0.9270 or the 0.93 level itself. So that's why, guys, for now, like I said, looking at this picture where we see here, we are going to be very careful. We will wait for a push above the 0.9190 before examining a further move higher. In terms of the downside here, well, I mean, ideally we would like to see, of course, this one pushing back down here initially below the 0.9170. This is like a short-term idea here, guys. So if we see a drop back below the 0.9170, in a way we could consider a possible move lower a little bit. But for those who are more on the cautious side, what you could do here is wait for a drop below the 0.9124-25 zone, something like that, and only then aim for lower areas. So this way we could play out like this. So let me just get rid of some of these levels here very quickly, and initially we will target, if we see a drop below the 0.9124-25 here, then we will target for the 0.9087-88 zone, but if that fails to withhold, then yep, further declines are possible, to maybe even going back towards the psychological 0.90 level. So keep your eyes on that one. But for now, like I said, we are more somewhat more bullish than bearish, but we will wait for that confirmation break first before getting excited about the upside. Okay, guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching until the end. If you want to join me later on at my Trader's Tea Time, as always, that's 13:15 GMT. We'll have a look at some of these instruments here. We'll see how they've got along today, and yep, we'll take it from there. But I hope you have a fantastic trading day, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.